Your
This
mute
conference
button.
will now be recorded.
Thank you. It's now being recorded. Good to know. It looks like we also have Shanna Joy from the commission here with us as well. Hi, Shanna.
Actually, Jane.
Oh, Jean. It popped up as Shanna Joy. Hi, Jean. I'll ask folks to keep your mute on unless you're actually speaking, since there's a bunch of us on here and the background noise can be a little distracting. I won't keep my mute on since I'm a more active participant here, but if anything on my end is distracting you folks, please let me know. First item, or the next item on our agenda here, is agenda review. Are there any proposed changes from board members? Hearing none. Okay. Hearing none. Any proposed changes from our executive director, Sarah?
Thanks, TJ. I have a couple. One is to add resolution 2020-05. This is establishing the small works roster, which is coupled with the procurement policy that we're discussing under item 7. The second is consideration of rescheduling the July board meeting date to July 30th. And the third is a discussion about setting the June work session topic list.
Okay, so let's take those one at a time. The issue of the resolution, the small works roster resolution, let's put that as item 7D after the bid policy and indicate that that is an action item along with the bid policy, which also should be an action item. We'll add decision on the July meeting date after governance and before reports. So that'll be item 8. And then we'll also put item 9, June work session, right after that. And then we will end with other reports, which will now be item 10. Any further changes? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve our agenda.
I'll move approval of the agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Doug. It's been seconded by Betsy. Roll call vote. Doug?
Aye.
I think that was an aye. Betsy?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We have approved our agenda. Takes us to item 3, consent agenda. There's 2 items on consent tonight. The April 23rd board meeting minutes and the April financial report. And I just would like to note before we vote on this that I'm finding it confusing that we have financial reports under consent and we approve the report, and then later in our agenda we have this standing item number 6, financial reports, where we go back and we ask questions about the thing that we've already approved. So for future meetings, I think I'd like us to go back to the spirit of what we were doing with consent, which is get your questions about the financial issues answered before the meeting. We'll deal with it on consent, and we won't have this financial report as a separate item later in the meeting anymore, if that's okay with folks.
Aye.
That works for me.
Okay?
Yep.
All right. Sounds good. So with that, I need a motion on our consent agenda.
I'll
make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, I think I heard David made the motion as approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Doug seconded. David, how do you vote?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye. And I would note, Mr. Chair, that you said it was the April financial report. My paper says May. That doesn't really change anything, though.
Yes, good point. Our agenda says April. Let's see, where were we? Betsy, vote?
Aye.
Okay. And chair votes aye. So we've unanimously approved our consent agenda. That takes us to item 4, public comment. It appears that we do have a couple of members from the public on the call here tonight. John Newman and Rachel, John Newman and Lisa Reiner. Do either of you want to address the board this evening? I'm not hearing a desire to address the board. Is there anyone that chooses to make public comment this evening? Okay, then we will move past public comment to item 5 on our agenda, continuity of operations during COVID-19. Sarah.
Thanks so much, TJ. As all of you are likely aware, Thurston County applied and has already been approved by the Washington State Board of Health to enter into phase 2. Now this allows for small groups to begin to meet, of course, with social distancing and proper procedures. Many businesses are able to open up to certain levels of capacity, again, following physical distancing and health procedures. I wanted to share, you may have also been aware that the Thurston County Public Health has issued a directive to the community to wear masks when in public places. So that is another piece too. Those are a couple of updates that are happening on the staff side. We are still working with the protocol that we've discussed and has been approved by the board. Staff is working on adapting the return to work plan, kind of modeled from the Conservation Commission, but we're in the process of adapting that to fit our local conservation district and the size and shape of organization we have. And that draft will be ready for supervisor review at the June work session, with anticipation that that would begin no sooner than July 1. That will also have a proposal for including how we do business with public meetings for the board to review and discuss how they'd like to operate moving forward.
Is that it,
And that's
Sarah?
that's what I have.
Okay, so are there questions for Sarah related to COVID-19 operations and staff issues? Any board questions?
Yes, this is Doug. As Sarah alluded to, we gave direction at least some weeks back. Have there been any problems with any of those directions we've given that need to be corrected on the next uptake here?
No, everything's been going really well. You know, all of our no contact site visits have been going really well. We've been able to continue business and serve landowners. Our equipment rental and our soil testing programs are running well in the fashions that we've been able to organize under COVID-19. So at this time, everything is running smoothly, and we're just preparing for that next phase.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Other board questions for Sarah? Okay, I guess no news is good news. No questions is good news. Thank you, Sarah. We'll move on then. So the next item on our agenda is the financial report, updates and questions, which we just approved. But since it's on our agenda, are there any questions on this last time before we alter our agendas?
No questions.
Question.
No questions
No questions.
no questions from the board. Okay, great. Then we'll move straight into item 7, kind of the meat of our agenda here, governance. Item A, 7A, is our 2020 to 2024 strategic plan. This is a big deal. We've been working on this for a while, and here we are, almost on schedule in spite of the world around us, to approve this thing in May. So, Sarah, do you want to say any introductory remarks about the plan and anything that's come up recently, and then we'll give the board a chance to talk?
Absolutely, and bear with me while I'm pulling up that final draft for you guys. I think this has been one of the best and smoothest processes that I've seen for our strategic plan. There were a lot of opportunities for the public to provide public comment, both with our listening sessions in the fall and our survey that went out, as well as once we had a final plan put together, having the ability for the public to review that final draft and provide additional comment to the board via that survey. So while of course we would all love to see much more engagement and communication from the community on things like this, I was just really happy with how many opportunities there were for folks to engage. So this is the final version, the plan that the board saw at the work session, and I think it's a really great articulation of where the district is and where the district wants to move in the future. So I just thank you to the board on this. This is a really nice job.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. I think I'll start in order of seniority here and ask you, Doug, any comments, questions on the strategic plan?
I think it's pretty clear. It's concise as far as having 10 or 12 pages, whatever it is. And I like the idea of getting to the point and then having attachments. So I think it's organized well. I think it's readable. I think the hard thing and make it so.
Great, thank you. Let's see, let's go to David next. David, any comments or questions?
No, I just, I feel it's a good strategic plan we've put together. It was a good the process, the way we went through to get it done, working with the staff, then working as a group together as our board here to put our ideas into place. I think it was a great process, and it turned out a real good product.
Betsy?
I'm really happy to have been a part of this strategic plan. The process was great working with the board. I really felt it was one of my first opportunities to really feel like a part of something that I understood thoroughly. And I can remember back to when I sat in on my first meeting and just had no idea what a strategic plan even was. I've bragged to many of my friends that I feel very proud to be part of a document that includes the word compassion. I remember that in our discussion, and I think it's great. I don't want to disappoint you, though. I have a couple typo things that I caught at the last minute in the attachments.
Excellent. I was hoping that you wouldn't let us down, Betsy.
It's an attachment 1, which would be page 25 or page 3, whichever way you're looking at things. All the other goals are, just present tense: assist, enhance, mitigate, assist. And then the last one is improving. I wish it said improve.
Okay, looks like Sarah's trying to get us there here.
What page was that, Betsy? I'm sorry.
Page 3 of the document, page 25 of our packet.
All right, so page 3 of the plan.
Yeah, you're on the right page. Down, so item 5, if it could say improve instead of improving, it would line up with all the other goals.
Okay, that's been corrected. Others, Betsy?
This is, okay, there was a page break on page 5 that would be nice to see go away. It's, because item 13 has A and B, and then the next page has the end of section, the sentence for B,
Uh-huh.
and it's really hanging. So page break issue. Did you see the problem? Item 13.
Well,
Yeah,
we've got to get,
I'll do this here and clean up the final.
Okay.
okay.
And then because I've been looking at this poultry trailer all day, and it says we were established in 1947 on the trailer, and the document says 48. Which is it?
47.
So then we have a typo on page 1.
Right at the very second bullet on the top of page 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That is all I have.
Okay. Just a couple comments I'll offer. I pretty much echo what everyone has already said about this being a really smooth process. I think when we started this, I wasn't really sure if we were all going to be on the same page in terms of what our vision was for the future. And it was amazing to me how quickly it became clear that we all pretty much saw our future in the same way. And not only did we see it in the same way, but staff, and to the extent we had community support and input, everything just kind of lined up on this. So that was pretty positive from my perspective. The other thing I'll say about it is I think this is a very forward-looking document. I mean, I've worked on a lot of strategic plans, read a lot of strategic plans, and you don't get the sense that it's about really changing stuff. And when you read our plan, it's really about changing stuff. It's about creating a very different looking future in our community around some of these issues of inclusivity and climate change and farmland preservation. And we kind of put the marker out there, and I'm pretty proud about that. I feel really good that we're not resting easily. We're sort of stretching a little bit with this plan, and we'll probably some things we'll undoubtedly succeed with, and some other things we might fall short, or it might not, happen in the first 5 years. But I think it's a pretty compelling vision, and I think it's a great basis for telling our story to the community in the future. So I'm really happy with where we're at and that we got through this process so well and more or less on time, given everything that's gone on since we started this. So at this point, I think we're ready to vote on this. So we'll go back through the same order we just made comments. And I'll ask for a motion on approving the plan.
Go for it, Betsy.
I was thinking you should do it, Doug.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the 5-year plan as presented with those minor edits.
Moved by Doug. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Betsy has seconded. Okay. Doug, how do you vote?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We have unanimously approved our 5-year strategic plan. Woohoo! Good job, everybody.
Mr. Chair, could I say one thing about it? Another thing?
Yes, sir.
I think it should be pretty clear to everyone what we're trying to do, too. I think sometimes plans like this aren't very clear. I think this is pretty clear on what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And we're
Thank
not
you.
trying to hide anything.
Okay, that moves us to item 7B, which flows directly out of our 5-year plan, which is our 2020 annual plan. Sarah, do you want to provide any context or introductory remarks on how this links to the strategic plan and sort of how you put this together?
Yeah, absolutely. So here is our 2020 annual plan of work. I really enjoyed putting together this plan with the sort of the layout thing that would be Island CD sort of theme. They had a really great way of phrasing their goals and their actions that was really linear. You could directly see how the metrics under the actions were quantified and correlated directly to their strategic plan. I think that this format and this plan is really easy and simple for the community to read, to understand what we're doing as a district, and also for staff to be able to track this information to show that gradual progress annually that we end with, culminating after those 5 years. So I think that this is definitely a format that's going to be a good win for us and also a good communication tool for the community. So, yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Comments or questions from board members on the annual plan?
I have some.
Okay, Betsy, go ahead.
Just in listening to Sarah talk, something had popped into my head. Would it make sense, right at the beginning somewhere, to say something about how it corresponds to the strategic plan? Because I found it very useful in going through it and looking at, oh, I see, this is the heading that matches the strategic plan. This is item 1. This matches that. How the action matches this. How would that be useful, do you think? Something right in there, yeah, where you've got your cursor.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, okay.
Shall I talk? Shall I talk while you do that, or wait?
Let's hold on that point. Let's let Sarah put some words in here, and then let's see if that's what we want, and then we'll move on.
To the layout, perhaps, of the strategic plan?
How about content and format?
Okay. Well, there are no actions in the strategic plan. They're hows.
Yeah, so content and format.
Wow, I can't even hear her keys clicking.
Okay, does that statement capture your concern, Betsy?
Let's call it, it's the annual work plan, not the annual plan of work.
Okay.
And maybe this annual work plan rather than this. This annual work plan links, okay, so take out of, links directly to the content and format of the 2020 strategic plan according to the annual budget. I'm not sure what that references.
And could we say, and aligns with the approved annual budget?
What if we call it adopted budget? Because we wouldn't.
Yeah.
We wouldn't
adopted
use
budget.
a budget that we didn't adopt or approve.
Yep.
And aligns with the adopted annual budget.
Aligns with it. Yep. Okay. Okay. Are we there on that now?
I like it.
Okay. Not hearing any objections, so let's move on to your other comments, Betsy.
Overall, I started looking at actions and compared to the House, and many of them are very clearly 1/5 of the goal. But there were, and I did see places where they weren't 1/5. They were either more or less. So I'm assuming staff has looked at this recently enough, given COVID, to feel that these numbers are realistic. I would not want to bore you going through each one. You know way more than I do about what you're getting done there.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of the actions that are in here are based directly off of the funding that we have available for this year to do work in those sections. So you'll notice some of the goals are not included in this annual work plan because we don't have funding for those goals yet. You know, those are things that will happen in subsequent years or that we need to find funding for. Some of the actions, like you mentioned, are about 1/5 because that's how we determined those metrics for the strategic plan goal is about how many of these do we do a year, what's a realistic amount of increase we'd like to see ourselves doing in that area to meet the goals that the board has laid out. And so that math has kind of already been calculated as part of the strategic planning process. And then this is just mirrored with what the budget is that we have now. So we did look at this and in light of COVID-19, see where we might need to make adjustments. So you'll see, like you mentioned, some of them are less than 1/5 of what the kind of metric is that we're quantifying. And that's taking into those considerations. Some of it's more because some of the work that we're able to do, we're focusing on certain projects now more this year than we might next year, or so those calculations have been taken into consideration for this plan, and this is a plan that we feel is doable for this year and also that we have funding to implement.
So one of them, I guess I just want to make sure it's not a typo. Let's see. So page 2, assist farms in mitigating and adapting to climate change. B says facilitate the installation of 5 alternative on-farm energy projects, which is our goal to do 5. Is that we're going to get it all done this year?
Betsy, you are an amazing human with great eyes. Thank you. That is a typo.
Well, I just, it was easy because I just went through. It was so easy to find. Oh, this is item 4. You made it easy to find these. I'm glad I caught it.
Okay, great. Others, Betsy?
It needs to be changed to project from project.
What's that?
We need to change, project, singular.
And also 5 should also be changed based on Betsy's change to the strategic plan to improve from improving.
Uh-huh.
I didn't quite hear what Ben said. Can you repeat that? Oh, right here, improving.
And then number 4, assist farms in mitigating and adapting. There needs to be a word in there. Assist farms in mitigating and adapting.
Okay.
Well, there were lots of numbers like that seemed like, wow, we're going to get that done. So I guess I would leave it to you for some of the bigger ones. Here's one. Our complete goal for, let's see, this is on page 5 at the top. It says we're going to facilitate 100 site visits with community members, and that's our complete 5-year goal. Under
under which number?
Under 17. Oh wait, this doesn't line up.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Number F.
Yeah. That's accurate.
Okay, because that's our whole goal for the strategic plan. Okay. I will stop there. It looks great to me.
Okay. Other comments from board members?
I really like Betsy's idea of linking the annual plan back to the strategic plan. That's a good catch.
Mm-hmm. Any further changes, Doug?
No,
David, do you have anything?
No changes. I think the annual plan looks good.
Okay. As do I. I really like the fact that it just lines up so easily with our strategic plan. And as Sarah said, anybody in the community can understand what we're doing over the next 5 years and how we're biting it off for this coming year. So that's great.
Excuse me, TJ.
Yeah.
I just saw one more page, one more little thing.
Okay, where are you?
Well, it's just general. Somewhere I neglected to bring up that I'd really like to see us incorporating more veterans in our work. And is that between the lines of maybe item 34B, which says develop and practice inclusive recruitment strategies?
I don't believe that our strategic plan specifically called out veterans.
It didn't, and
It
that's my
didn't.
bad. I meant to bring that up. And
Yeah. So maybe it's just to be clear with the staff and with ourselves that we see that as part of our inclusivity and our desire in that regard. And there's probably some other subsets that we haven't specifically called out that we'd want to focus on over time as well.
Okay. Well, I think I would like that to be noted in the minutes.
Yes.
Please.
So whatever I just said, let's put it in the minutes.
Could I make an additional suggestion?
Sure.
If you'd like to see that in here, we could add another action, which is, work to engage veterans in our community, so that it is noted in here that that's part of the work that we're doing.
Well, the only problem with that is that once you start to identify one group, then you have to identify all the groups so people start to feel left out versus saying we're going to be inclusive.
Very true.
And
Well,
that's maybe I did bring it up, and that's what happened. I guess the reason I bring it up is because I know there's a great veterans program that other districts are utilizing, and they've had great success with it. So I'm calling it out for that reason.
Fair enough. So do you want to see language in here specifically about veterans, or can you live with the more general inclusivity language knowing that the intent would include veterans?
I think I can suggest a solution.
Okay.
Reword it to be develop and practice inclusive recruitment strategies, comma, such as veterans.
Under B,
Yeah.
34B?
The other thing I was going to mention was explore the possibility of utilizing the veterans. It's an organization. I don't have it in front of me. Do you know who I mean, though? The Veterans Conservation Corps, maybe?
Well, there's actually two different ones. There's the Veterans Cafe that we worked with here in Thurston, and then there's the Vets on the Farm that's headquartered in Spokane.
Okay, so now Sarah's put the issue of veterans in two places under both B and C.
Just options for you to look at on the screen. Feel free to type.
I like item C, and we could leave B as it was.
Okay, is there anybody that can't live with that?
I think that looks good.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very
So,
much.
good, thanks, Betsy. Doug, you had made some comments. David, so I think at this point we were ready to have a motion on approving this annual plan.
All
Is there a
motion to approve
motion?
the annual plan.
Okay, David has a moved approval. Is there a second?
I second it.
Moved by David, seconded by Betsy to approve the 2020 annual work plan. David, how do you vote?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The plan has been approved unanimously. That moves us to item 7C, our bid policy. And we'll deal with this first, and then item D, as we decided, we'll deal with the resolution on small works register second. So Sarah or Ben, I'm not sure who's going to give us the intro on this.
I think I'll start if that's okay, Ben, and then you can share some additional. Does that work?
Yeah, that works. But I've reviewed and worked with Sarah on this, so I don't know that I'll have much to add.
Okay, thank you. So go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, so I wanted to start by pulling this screen up. I sent this out to the board today. This TJ had asked to help facilitate some conversation around our procurement policy that's proposed tonight. Just a bulleted list of essentially, why do we need this policy update? What are we doing? What's new that this policy adds versus what is existing, what's remaining, what's not changing. It's a lengthy document, a lengthy policy full of a lot of statutory language and recommended legal processes from MRSC that's not necessarily easily digestible. So I just wanted to really quickly bring this screen up that you see before you that covers a couple of the points that this policy brings to the district. One, it updates and clarifies processes for the very different types of procurement that the district may or may not engage in. Goods and services procurement is very different than small public works projects like installing a bridge. So they have different processes that go with them. So does contracting with an engineering firm to do some design. So there's specific processes for each of those, which now have their own section of the policy versus one process and trying to make each of them fit into this one. It also ensures that we're consistent with the latest changes in any sort of laws that we're under and follows MRSC guidance. A lot of this was pulled directly from MRSC and put into this format verbatim. So also this policy versus the last one offers a lot more detail in a lot of the sections so that staff really clearly understand what the steps are that they need to take for procurement and how to go about and troubleshoot all different types of scenarios that might come up. We've had a lot of institutional turnover over the last couple of years, both at our conservation district and in our engineering cluster. And a lot of those folks that ran a lot of these processes in the past are no longer here. And so we want to make sure that we are putting that institutional knowledge on paper in a place that staff, no matter when they come on board, have really clear processes to follow. This also allows us, which we are allowed under RCW 3904-280, but this puts it in TCD policy, our ability to engage in sole source or emergency contracts with those kind of special and appropriate circumstances that are listed. This is important and something that the district has run into in the past. For example, there's a part that we need and it's only made by one manufacturer. that is not something that we're going to be able to get additional quotes on or additional bids on. And so this allows an avenue for that to take place. It includes a section on standards on ethical conduct, as well as a section on dispute resolution, if should there be anything that happens in construction or in the process of procurement at any time. It also includes documentation and a process to address non-responsive bidders or insufficient amount of contractors listed on the rosters. So it has, again, all of those troubleshooting features, kind of regardless of what scenario might arise. There's something in policy that tells our staff how to handle that, which is great. So that's a little bit of this next paragraph is a little bit of a section on the adjoining resolution, which we'll see in a minute, which comes out of MRSC guidance and is similar to resolutions that were adopted by both King and Mason conservation districts. And both of them have on-staff engineers and do a lot of construction projects. What's staying the same in this policy? That's the bidding thresholds. They remain consistent with our TCD past practice, which is just that guidance that's recommended by MRSC again. And those are the breaks with getting quotes, with getting written quotes and formal bids, that field formal bidding process. So those intervals have not changed. All of the existing laws, adherence to that was implied by the prior resolution. That hasn't changed, that we still fall under all of those. Our contracting requirements and mechanisms that were detailed in our last policy, as well as our ability to cooperate with local governments. So those are some of the sections of the policy that is the same as the last. I hope that this was helpful. I'm happy to answer any questions now, and I'll also pull up the policy itself for you to take a look at.
Great, thanks, Sarah. I appreciate you taking my suggestion to put those bullets together. I think, at least for me, it helps me get my mind around what's staying the same and what's different, and just kind of what the meat of the policy is. It's kind of easy to get lost in some of the legalese at times and lose sight of content. Let's see. So are there questions or comments from board members? And I'll just go through the roster here. Doug, you mind going first? Any comments or questions?
Yes, I do. I'd sent some questions in earlier, and they were adequately responded to. Except I think I convoluted the situation by bringing up the Fair Labor Standards Act. And really what I wanted to do was bring up the prevailing wage requirements that are there. I didn't see anything about making sure that we or our contractors pay the prevailing wage. And I think we got in trouble about, 8 or 10 years ago for overlooking that.
I
For
think
Mr. Cushman's recommendation on that.
yeah, you can definitely get in trouble for overlooking that, but that is part of the background of existing law that applies at any time any given contract is being put out for bid. The danger with putting in a specific reference in a policy to a specific statute,
It'll change.
that if the legislature goes ahead and changes the statute, but we haven't changed the policy, you can get weird and problematic mismatches.
Okay, that seems to answer it very well. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ben. Anything else, Doug?
No, thanks.
Okay, when we saw, Sarah sent out the back and forth of your other questions and the responses earlier, so thank you for looking at that closely, and thank you, Sarah, for responding to that. David, questions or comments?
I don't have any questions or comments at this time.
Thank you. Betsy?
Well, this is a little bit out of my scope of expertise. I don't say that I could describe this to anyone very well or anything, but I would like to just defer to whoever has the most expertise. Sarah expressed that David works in this arena, and so I'm hearing that he feels comfortable with this.
Yeah, I've reviewed it seems pretty good to me. It's pretty thorough. Yeah, I think it looks fine.
Great, and it's certainly had thorough review and input from Ben as well, from the legal
Mhm.
side of things. And I agree with you, Betsy. We're not people who do this for a living in terms of writing contract policies or contract law. So my own sense is if both Ben and David are comfortable with this, I'm comfortable with the details. And what I'm really focusing on is what does the policy do, and the bullets that Sarah put up earlier.
Great.
So,
Me too.
good. So let's see then. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the 4.6 procurement procedures.
I'll make the motion to approve the 4.6 procurement procedures.
Moved by David. Is there a second?
I'm happy to second it.
Betsy has seconded. Okay, roll call vote. David,
Aye.
Betsy,
Aye.
Doug.
Aye, and it really helps if I turn off mute.
Chair votes aye. It has been approved unanimously. That moves us to the related item of the resolution. You want to put that up for us, Sarah? This is the Small Works Roster Resolution 2020-05. We saw
All right.
okay, here we go. We saw Sarah's bullets earlier, an explanation of what this is all about. So I don't know that we need another introduction here, but I'll just ask, are there board questions or comments on this resolution? I'm not hearing any. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2020-05.
I
Also
so
moved.
move.
Let's see, I got Doug there first on my audio.
Okay,
Betsy, do you want to second that?
you bet.
Okay. Moved by Doug, seconded by Betsy. Any further discussion? All right. We'll do a roll call vote then. Doug,
Aye.
Betsy,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
chair votes aye. The resolution 2020-05 has been approved unanimously by the board. That moves us to item 8 on our agenda, the July meeting date. There's been some
Mr. Chair.
email back and forth initially between Sarah and I, and then I asked Sarah to check with board members about moving our July meeting date to the 5th. I believe it's the 5th the 5th Thursday of July, July 30th, in order to give staff a little bit more time to turn things around between our work session and the board meeting. Is there anything further to say about that, Sarah?
No, I think that covers it. It's just with our summer work session schedule, it would put our work session the week before our meeting, which doesn't give us time to turn around that information, just like you said.
Yep. Okay. So we'll need to have a motion to change our July board meeting date to July 30th. If someone would like to make that motion.
I move that we change our board date for the July meeting to the 30th.
Moved by
Same
Doug.
time.
Second. Is
I
there a
second.
second? Seconded by Betsy. Okay. Um, I'm assuming all board members are available on July 30th here. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, Doug, how do you vote?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Our July meeting has been moved to July 30th, 5:30 p.m. That moves us to item 9 on our agenda, the June work session items. Is there a starting point, Sarah, that you can offer us for that?
Yeah, I wanted to remind the board that earlier this year we had a conversation about inviting Tom Salzer to come and speak with us about developing the conservation center that he did in his former life as a district manager in Oregon, and sort of have some conversation about where we need to go, next steps, lessons learned about that. Tom has that tentatively on his calendar, and I just wanted to make sure with the board that that still is something you'd like to go forward with at this work session, which will likely be, electronic and in a web space. I'll reach back out to Tom to make sure that date is still good for him. But that is likely a discussion that will take a lot more time, and something that we'll try and keep other items light if we can, so that we can focus a lot of discussion on that. That's the first question.
Okay, and when you say he's got it on his calendar, he's aware that we've moved our June work session to Tuesday?
That's a good point. Let me make sure with Tom that I also changed that date with him. Thanks for that.
Okay.
DJ.
So let's just first confirm with the board, is there anybody that doesn't want to bring Tom into our June work session to talk about the Conservation Education Center?
I guess I should bring up, I will not be here on the June work session.
Okay, thank you, David. Would you prefer that we wait to talk with Tom when you're available, or are you okay for us to move forward with that initial discussion?
I'm fine with you guys moving forward on that.
Okay. Doug or Betsy, any thoughts about having Tom?
I would like to move forward with that.
I think I'm the one that suggested it originally. I suggest also that we give him some sideboards, like half an hour or an hour or whatever he thinks appropriate.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. So what I'm hearing here is consensus among the board. Let's make sure Tom's available. Try to get him to our June work session. Let's carve out adequate time to talk about this. I think, Doug, your suggestion of 30 to 60 minutes makes sense. Maybe let's say we have 45 minutes with him or something. And either Sarah or I'm happy to have a conversation with him in advance and just give him a little more context about what we're thinking with this in regards to our strategic plan and what we're hoping to get from him. So that'll be a big chunk of our work session. What other items will need to be on that June work session?
We need to discuss our vacancy, don't we, or
Yes.
filling the vacancy?
And in fact, maybe what we need to do in that regard is we need to, as we did last month, make that work session a special meeting of the board so that we can potentially take action and have an executive session to discuss qualifications and potentially take action. So we would need to notice that meeting as a special meeting. And those two items alone might fill up our time for June.
We don't have any policies we need to start thinking about ticking off.
Say that again, Betsy?
We don't have any policies we want to tackle. On our list of policy updates.
I don't have that list in front of me right now, but does anybody recall what was sort of next in our pecking order of policy revisions?
No, I don't recall, but I think we've got enough with our normal stuff, plus Salzer, plus discussing the vacancy.
Yeah, And I see that Sarah just typed in the code of conduct policy. Maybe that's our next policy. This is the one that we asked Ben to spend some time working on. And Ben, will we be in a position to talk about that constructively at the June special meeting? Hello,
Yes,
Ben.
yes. It's a fraught and difficult needle to thread, but we can certainly have productive discussions so that we can, you know, figure out what limitations there are and what the direct what needs to be done. We won't have. I very much doubt that we will have a fully fleshed out policy to work through the details of with the idea of putting it on the next
I think
formal
what could
meeting.
Sorry, I think what could be helpful, and I understand we won't have a policy. What might be helpful, though, is some type of policy memo, Ben, that would just outline kind of what the key issues are that we need to address in this policy so that we can provide sufficient guidance to you in advance of drafting the actual policy.
Yes, that would be helpful. Now, to the extent we're going to be getting, formal legal advice about some of that might be best done in executive session. So I'll talk to Sarah about this and get some kind of work session level memorandum prepared for discussion so that we can get essentially the parameters of future discussions set down.
Great. I think that would be a good way to keep moving this thing forward. Okay, so Betsy, we've added a policy piece there, and that to me looks like a pretty significant agenda for, unless there's something else that's burning, I'd suggest maybe we leave it at that for now.
Sounds good.
Okay, and David, since you won't be at that meeting, it would be useful in advance to get your feedback on any candidates who've applied for that vacancy, as well as any feedback you have based on Ben's policy memo.
That sounds good. I can submit an email to Sarah.
Great. Okay. Thank you all. I think that's it for our June 9 special meeting agenda.
Can I make
Let's
a
move.
statement about that, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I had my phone on mute again. I think in the code of conduct discussion, we need to answer the question of what problem are we trying to solve, and that'll help focus what we're trying to do, I think.
Great. Yeah, so maybe just a problem statement as part of that memo will help move that forward. Thanks, Doug. Okay, let's move then to item 10, other reports. And while it wasn't on here, the fact that we've got Jean here on the phone, if it's okay with folks, I'd like to slide her in here and see if there's an update from the State Conservation Commission before we move to these other reports. All right, I don't hear objections. So Jean, you want to give us an update? I think you're muted. Hello, Jean.
We can't hear you.
You're not.
So she's having trouble.
Yeah, her audio is not working, so she'll provide an update via email.
Okay.
What about Sheila Markle?
You want to, Jean, do you want to try hand signals or American Sign Language or something? Okay. Yes, Sheila's here too. Is
She's
there
going to call
anything,
in now, I think.
Sheila, is there anything you'd like to update us on from the Department of Ecology?
Sure. Hi, thank you. And apologize for not being present the past couple of months. We wanted to just give you a quick update. We've got some staff changes. So I have been named as the new supervisor for the Watershed Resources Unit. So I will no longer be a regional person, but I will be the supervisor of such the non-point source group, construction stormwater, and municipal stormwater folks. So that is brand new starting Monday. Also, we do have Elena Reynolds on the line. She is our new non-point source specialist working in the Puget Sound watershed. So you'll be seeing and hearing from her on occasion, and I'll let her introduce herself. But before we do that, I just wanted to mention that, in case of what hasn't been mentioned before, that ecology and Karen with the district, and also Thurston County Environmental Health and Code Enforcement folks have been meeting quarterly for the Pollution Identification and Correction Program, so the PIC program. And so what we're doing is getting together and coordinating when we do get those reported concerns and complaints or identified sites of concern out in the community. We're actually coordinating with each other and addressing some of those properties, whether they're agriculture or other types of non-point source pollution events. So that coordination is happening, and I just thought that you might want to know about that.
Great, thank you.
Thank
we do want to know about that.
And if we could just take a moment, if you don't mind, to have Elena just introduce herself, since she will be attending some of your meetings in the future.
Yes, please. Welcome, Elena.
Thank you, and thank you, Sheila, for that lovely introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Elena Reynolds, and I am the new water quality non-point source pollution specialist. I am looking forward to working with all of you, and I'm currently focusing on the Henderson Inlet and Nisqually Reach areas, especially the shellfish growing areas, in compliance with the grant my position is under. If you have any questions or concerns or want to reach out and say hi, please don't hesitate, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you and welcome aboard. Okay, let's then go back on the agenda here. Doug, we had WACD and NACD updates, both of which we got in written form. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Nope.
Okay.
Unless
we'll
there's questions.
Any questions for Doug on WACD, NACD? Nope. Okay. Let's do board supervisor reports then. I'll stick with you, Doug. Anything else to report?
Not to report, but I do have a suggestion regarding our annual plan. Because we plagiarized so much about from Whidbey Island, I think we should send them a thank you note that we really appreciated their hard work of preparing the iceberg for us so we could be on top of it. But we ought to send them a thank you for that.
Great idea, Doug. Can you make that happen, Sarah?
Absolutely, I can. And I'll just note that Jean's phone is working now, so if you'd like to consider her when board reports are over.
Okay. Well, actually, we'll come back to her right now then. Hi, Jean.
Hi, thank you for your patience. Sorry about that. So I just have a couple things. Doug may have mentioned some of these in his report as well, so apologies for any duplication. But the last commission meeting was last week. Elections were certified and appointments made official. You may have heard that instead of 2 months of operating funds allocation, the commission has approved 6 months of operating funds allocation in the upcoming fiscal year. That's based on some more confidence about what the budget's looking like going forward. Budget packages based on the input received from districts through the budget survey were approved for development by the commission. And you'll see registration is open now for the virtual WADE event, if you haven't seen that already. And I wanted to mention this Friday's conservation community call, there we go, tomorrow morning. It includes discussion around the Veterans Corps that Betsy mentioned just now, as well as ecology crews and prison crews. So I just want to make sure I mention that. I'll forward tonight. I'll forward the invitation that comes out on GovDelivery for the Friday calls, in case anyone missed that. And then I'll follow up tomorrow with a little more detail in an email. Yeah. Any questions about any of that?
Doesn't sound like it. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you, sir.
We'll come back to supervisor reports and move to Betsy. Do you have anything?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I was going to talk about asking for some action towards a more professional presentation with our online and printed materials, more proofing, editing, and so forth. But since then, since I decided to do that, I wanted to share with you all that I've learned from Leah that Sarah proposed that she and maybe another staff person go through a editing and what was it, Leah? Is she there? Anyway, she's going to get some training, and I think that's going to be great. But it is important. I want to move forward with professionalism in our presentation on paper and on our websites.
Great.
I'm going to be attending a training on June 14th and 15th provided by DES and CORE, which are state agencies.
Super.
Excellent. Was that your, do you have anything else, Betsy?
That's all I wanted to say, and thank you for your efforts, all of you. I know you've also been covering a lot of ground with new tools, and it's new territory, so I appreciate everything you do.
Great. Just one thing that I wanted to report on, continuing discussions around the zhan Spooner Farms parcel. We had a video conference last week with Olympia Council member Danny Madrone. Sarah and I were on that call, as were Patrick and Marcy Cleaver from the Community Farm Land Trust. And it was a very productive call. We began talking about a mitigation policy. Danny will be taking, the way this works at the city council is she's going to ask the city council for a referral to her committee, which is kind of the green light to work on this. That will happen on June 2nd, and I will be a part of that meeting and advocate to the city council that they grant that referral. Once that referral is made, there will be a task force established to develop a mitigation policy. That task force will be led by Councilmember Madrone. It'll include Sarah and I, the folks from the Community Farmland Trust, possibly Stephen Bramwell from WSU Thurston County Extension. And then we'll pull in other people as needed in terms of accessing data and information. Danny's report is that everyone on the city council is supportive of a mitigation policy. This is going to happen. This task force will be created and we will begin developing this policy. Some of the points we began talking about already is sort of how much farmland there is, both in the city and in the urban growth area. What's the value of farmland? In terms of if you're going to lose an acre, what's the value of that in terms of purchasing land for mitigation? And then also probably the big issue is figuring out how to build mitigation funding into project budgets so that when the city comes forward and says, we're going to build a park on a strawberry farm, that park budget includes all of the sufficient money to mitigate the loss of the farmland. So feeling very encouraged about the direction things are going here. Sarah and our staff are already starting to pull some data together to move that conversation forward, and it's happening. So and the goal, I think, is to have a policy adopted by the Olympia City Council sometime this year, probably in the fall would be my guess. So it's not a back burner issue. It will be on a reasonably rapid track forward towards a policy development.
That's really, I'm so excited to see this happening. You've done great work, TJ.
Thank
And
you.
I'm happy for council person Madrone, is that what we call her? Counselor?
Yes. Yeah.
TJ, was that information I sent to you from California and Washington and Oregon useful?
Absolutely, and that was all passed on to Danny and to the Community Farmland Trust people in advance of our meeting. So we're beginning to build an information database, including those links and the information you sent, Doug, so thank you.
Okay, good. That's one of the advantages of having somebody on the NACD board. We can tap into that stuff, know who to call.
Yeah. Okay, so that concludes supervisor report. Last thing on our agenda then is our executive director report. Sarah.
Thank you, TJ. I've got a couple of things for you, but I'll try and make it brief. One is, as we are looking at kind of this next phase of reopening of the state, the county, of the world at large, we are doing our next phase of planning for workshops and events and things like that. A lot of that will be referenced in our return to work plan, but we recently held an affordable home gardening workshop, which has been very popular lately with more folks growing food at home. That was well attended. We have had over 40 folks on that webinar, and that's one that staff will continue to repeat with a couple of different partners upcoming. So that was a really great avenue. It worked really well. We had that webinar streaming with a closed captioning as well as Spanish translation for folks in our community. And the platform itself, again, just went really well. We already have plans to continue to transition some of our in-person classroom-based workshops into this virtual setting that folks can participate in from home, can be recorded, and we can have them posted on our website and social media for viewing in the future. So that's kind of a really exciting piece that's come out of this in the way that we're adapting the way we do business. We're still looking at those things that we can do outdoors, physical distancing, and planning for those later in the year. Second is last night was the Puget Sound area NRCS local working group meeting. Survey was done and a meeting was held last night to identify priorities for the NRCS local working group funding. This is additional funding that NRCS has for these local areas where you can identify these local priorities. So I just wanted to report back to the board on that terrestrial upland habitat, soil compaction, sediment transport via water, and nutrient transport via water were the top 4 kind of resource concerns identified by the local working group. And in each of those boxes is a whole suite of practices that folks can implement on their own property. The district partners often with NRCS, and we pair our funding together or leverage funding where the district may not have some, and we can tap into these local working group funds. One of the examples is this is one of the best ways that we can get a lot of pollinator habitat funded, and we did a large project or NRCS did a large project this last year to install many acres of pollinator habitat through those funds. So more to come on that in the future. We've also received funding for 3 different projects recently. You saw those detailed in my written report, 2 of which are in the Chehalis Basin, focusing on a salmon recovery project that's been ongoing where we've had some fish passage issues to continue to increase habitat in the Skookumchuck River. And the other one is to explore opportunities in a targeted area of the lower Chehalis to continue to support agricultural operations and collaborate to do another reach scale restoration project. The third is a protection and restoration project that we're doing with a variety of different partners. And this is funded through the Wild Fish Conservancy. We're a subrecipient of that through the RIA 13 surfboard process. So we're doing, again, some more restoration there on some spring-fed wetlands and a stream tributary to the Deschutes River. So I just wanted to highlight those are really exciting, and those will be teeing off this year. Really quickly, our staff has integrated or begun to integrate Smartsheet software into the district. Again, this was something I highlighted in my written report, but this is a really exciting piece that I think is going to make a lot of both our internal and our external presentation of information much more accessible for everybody, board staff, members of the public. And really make our data tracking, reporting, our telling our story, all of this just so much easier and more effective. So we're really excited about building that piece. Finally, moving forward, staff will be pulling together all of the information and data, new grants received, etc., to update our annual budget through the month of June to present to the board at the July work session for any areas of potential or necessary revisions that need to happen. So this is that time where we've received notification of a lot of new awards or grants have ended, and so we'll update that budget to reflect what's essentially the last 6 months of the year is going to look like, and then present that with the board again at the July work session for considered action potentially at the July board meeting. So that is what I've got for my report, unless anyone has questions.
I have one question, Sarah. We've put a lot of things over the last few months sort of on a list that said, let's talk about that at the mid-year budget review. As I assume that you have that list and all of that, those issues that we've identified will be part of what you bring to us at the July work session.
Yeah, absolutely. All of those pieces will be noted similarly to how we presented the budget the first time around. We'll share that as well as any trends that we've seen where we're really dramatically underspending or overspending, where things might have changed, where we might have new needs or needs that don't exist anymore. Yep, all of that will be included in that conversation.
Great. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Sarah?
Nope.
All right.
Yes, I have one.
Oh, go ahead, Doug.
It took me a second to get off mute there. Yeah. Sarah, would you be open to being on the WACD annual meeting planning committee?
Absolutely.
Okay, I think you and I talked about it before, but I haven't brought it up to the full board. Okay, that sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
All motion to adjourn.
David motions to adjourn. Is there a second?
I will second.
Seconded by Betsy. David, how do you vote?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We are now adjourned. Thank you all for another productive GoToMeeting. Hope you're all well, staying safe, and we'll see you again virtually very soon. Good night.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for running these so smoothly, TJ.
Oh, you're welcome.
I've been to a lot of meetings in the years, and some of them are just bloody awful.